I am. My name is Alex, and I'm the president of the ACM. And if you don't know what the ACM is, that's a pretty big problem. But anyway, that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to actually introduce our guest speaker today. So our guest speaker is right over there. His name's Micah Chasteen, and he graduated from MTSU with both his undergrad and graduate degrees, and now works at Google. So I think that's enough, and I'll go ahead and hand it over to him.
Hey guys. First off, before I get started, I would like to thank Alex, ACM, the department, everyone who's helped out, helped me get all this set up. I got some pizza for you, some swag in the back. They've worked hard to bring it all in. I didn't have to do it myself, so thank you guys. All right, Alex, Micah. All right, I think most of you already signed in. If you haven't, please make sure you do so today. This helps both me and you. It helps them know that I actually came here. I didn't just run away with all the swag I brought. And also show them that there's interest here at MTSU about Google, and I can hopefully come back. So, what I'm going to talk about today is a few different things. I'll give you a quick introduction about Google, not that you really need it, kind of the life at Google, why Google is different than any other company, and then I'm going to go into some details about interviewing, how you can actually get a job at Google, give you some advice for those who are interested, and then I'll try to open up the rest of the talk for any questions you have, because I'm sure you have a million of them, and you'd all like to have a chance to ask them. So this is our mission statement. Many of you probably don't know that we have a mission statement. But that's to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. So obviously that comes into play with search. That's what most people know about Google, search. But we're also a ton of other things you see in here between social media, analytics, Android, Chrome. So basically what I'm saying is there's all kinds of projects at Google. Whatever you want to work on, we've probably got something that interests you. Those of you who don't know, Google started in 1998 in a dorm room. This proves that you guys can do amazing things on your own. And now we're in over 40 countries. We have over 70 different office locations. So if you want to get out of Tennessee and go work in California, you can. If you want to move to London, Tokyo, Dublin, any of these locations on the map, you can. A couple of our products you already know: Gmail, 425 million accounts. These numbers are a little old, but you get the idea. Last year at Google I/O we announced that we have over 1 billion Android device activations. And you've probably all heard of the driverless cars, self-driving cars. I don't know if you actually had a chance to see one. You probably more have a chance to see our street view cars. Those are pretty cool too. So again, this is, Google is, actually I think it's considered more of a medium-sized company, but it appears as a big company to everyone else. So you have a ton of different choices. You know, everyone is wanting to hire engineers right now. So why would you pick Google? Well, most people have heard about Google Perks. Who's heard about some perk at Google? So anyone, what's your favorite one that you've heard? Food?
Laundry service.
Bicycles? What's that?
Laundry service.
Laundry service? Yeah. How many of you knew that we had laundry service? You can get dry cleaning and go do your laundry at work. It's pretty crazy. So yeah, Google supports the engineers very well. Free food we have in Mountain View especially. There's a ton of different cafes. Anything you want, you can go get. All made fresh every day by our chefs. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Down the bottom, we've got nap pods. If you want to take a nap, I know you wish you could go back to having like nap time. You can. Several of our locations, they have slides. I think everyone's probably seen that. We have a bunch of unique open spaces and rooms. Some of the other things you don't get to hear about, which is really nice, is like unlimited sick days. You can take personal days to do with your kids. You have so much time you can spend volunteering. You can get free massages at work. Pretty much whatever you can think of. We're trying to help our engineers. And basically the idea behind that is if you don't have to worry about it like outside of work, then you're able to focus more on your work. So they really don't care if we take breaks and shoot each other with Nerf guns. Second, openness. I don't know, I can't speak, I've only worked at Google, but we're very open about all of our projects. We have what's called TGIF every Thursday. That's a little weird. But they actually talk about all the stuff that's going on in the company. So we get to hear about the new Android projects, what they're doing with the driverless cars, the secret projects that I can't even mention here because they're so secret. How many of you have seen Project Iris? That was one we announced recently. No one. Who knows someone who is diabetic? Oh, somebody that's like, oh, I bet I know what he's talking about now. We actually came out with a contact lens that they can wear and it takes blood sugar levels. Think about that. That's a crazy contact lens. Okay. We also have a voice at Google, so during the TGIF or anything else, we don't like something that we're doing, engineers can speak up. Sometimes they ignore us, but we can still speak up. So if we have a problem with what they did for a certain feature or that they are making people use their real names, people at Google speak up. We actually have engineers that are like, no, that's not cool. So it's really cool that you can speak up and say something and have a say in it. Scale. So most of the time, companies are focused on like 10% improvements. Like we just want to keep growing. At Google, we encourage 10 times. So those are what we call moonshots. And we don't want to just improve something by a little bit. We want to completely revolutionize it or come up with something new, which is way cooler. So if you have a crazy idea, it's a perfect place to work. It sounds a little creepy, but join us. So there's a few different job positions that we mainly have open. Software engineer, of course, being one that most everyone is interested in. That means you are programming new features, working on bugs, helping come up with ideas for features, all the stuff that you would normally think of. We have two others, software engineer and test. If you actually want to force the software engineers to write good code, you can do that. You write integration tests, you make sure that things keep running, that they're not going to break. Then you have a site reliability engineer, which is kind of the opposite of that. This is more like stuff that's broken. Try not to let the servers catch on fire. Best way I can explain it. So like we had a Gmail outage not long ago. Yeah. It's rare that it happens, but then you're like, oh my God, how do I go about my day now? I can't get to my email. So there's probably hundreds of these SREs like running around like crazy, trying to figure out how to fix it. That's the best way I can describe their job. I know no one's interested in it now. There's a few other things that you can do if you want to kind of head out of the engineering area. Product management, if you actually want to be in charge of a product, coming up with ideas, working with other products to collaborate, you can definitely do that. Most all of our positions, at some point, they were software engineers. So we all kind of speak the same language, and it really helps. There's also information technology positions we call tech stop, which is basically tech support for us, tech support for engineers. Engineers are really smart, but it doesn't mean that we don't need help sometimes when the computer is not working, or we can't log into something, our password changed. So like, one example is, they are very strict on their passwords, and they watch us. Like if we accidentally type our password into anything else, they send us an email saying, yeah, your password showed up over here. You have to change it now. And you can go to these guys for home. So I had you sign in when you came in, which is great. That's going to help you get contacted by a recruiter if you chose to do so. But you should also, when you're ready to apply, go to google.com/jobs/students. Pick whichever thing you're interested in and upload your resume. It's pretty easy. You have to do this no matter what. It's kind of our a way to have it all done the same way. I mean, I can take resumes here if you have them, but still you're going to have to go there to apply. Okay, so the fun stuff. You really want to know how you get a job at Google. So first off, I'm going to give a little advice for the underclassmen. Who's here just starting out in computer science? Okay, so you're actually in a really good position because you can start preparing now. Everyone else is like, crap, I'm already need to find a job. So learn about programming languages. That seems pretty obvious, but when you're in there doing like a computer lab or having a homework assignment, you just want to get through. Take the time, make sure you actually understand it. It's going to help you 10 times more in the long run if you do. And it goes along with the develop a solid foundation. You think it's silly that you have to do string manipulation. That's what you're going to be asked in an interview, actually, so remember it. Get experience outside of class. This is where you're really lucky. Start joining clubs like the ACM. Do programming contests. ACM actually does that too. Get involved in open source projects or any kind of side project you want. Start learning things, other APIs. It'll help you when you get out there. Do conferences. Even if you just want to go to a conference, attend a conference, that helps too. You'll start getting used to it. Go speak about something. Do research. Join a professor on research if they need some help. Do it on your own. Don't make excuses. Do it. Resumes. Who actually has a resume they keep up to date? That's good. There's a lot of you that do. If you keep it up to date as you go, it's a lot easier to manage. So then you want to apply for a job and you're like, crap, what have I done with my life? And how do I get it on this piece of paper? And it's a little bit harder. For an engineering position, it actually goes to engineers. Engineers look at this. Recruiters look at it too, but the recruiters know what the engineers want. We don't need a cover letter. We don't need an objective statement. We don't need us to tell us that you really want to work at Google. You obviously do. You're applying. I would say at most keep it to 1 or 2 pages. Really, I think you can fit it all on 1 page unless you've just been really super busy. We don't necessarily need a full transcript of all the courses you've done. Just give us, if you want to give us a few examples of some cool projects, that's fine too. You can list school, the degree, the GPA. GPA, it does matter in the sense that it's, if you have a good GPA, go ahead and put it up there. They're going to ask it at some point, so you might as well. Then what I was just telling all the underclassmen, put all the conferences, awards, scholarships that you've gotten, received, even been considered for. It'll help you stand out a little more. And then even clubs and other activities, when we do have recruiters look at the resumes, they do like to see that, oh, they also are into voting. Just makes you seem like a real person. So what we should do now, if you're considering applying to Google really anywhere for this part, is start researching software engineering interviews for bigger companies. A smaller company, it's a little bit different, but the bigger companies have all kind of adopted the same kind of practice. These, the first 2 I have listed there are books. You may want to write these down. Programming Interviews Exposed and Cracking the Coding Interview. Those are both really helpful books. I've talked to several people. I've read them both. I've talked to other people who have read them, and it's helped them tremendously. They actually walk you through like what you should do during the interview, how to treat it, and give you plenty of example problems. Although I believe in the second edition of Programming Interviews Exposed, they have some errors in their examples, so be careful. I would say in general you want to study for about a month in advance, just because there's so much that you have to go back and look at. When I got a letter from the recruiter saying, here's what you should look at, go over before your interview, this is basically a list of all the classes I've taken. So it's like, go back and relearn everything. So that's why I say about a month. It may be more, it may be less for you. That's just a general statement. Focus on data structures and algorithms. So you really know what a list is, how it works, sets, hash tables. Hash tables are big. Algorithms, sorting, searching, figure out what's best to use in what case, what time and space complexity. And it may not be essential that you understand that an algorithm is in log in, but it's really going to help in an interview when you can tell the interviewer that. So you also want to get in a lot of practice too. I mentioned programming contests. That was something that helped me a lot. It was, here's a problem, get it done fast. Because in an interview, you don't have much time. So this would be a good thing. ACM has an archive of all their previous contest problems that you can look at. Take a few of those, try them out. It's okay if you don't solve them in 15 minutes. You'll get faster as you get used to the types of changes you need to know for it. It's just mainly that you get out there and do it. They suggested to me when I applied to look at topcoder.com. There's probably a few more now, but that one gives you kind of an automated way to write solutions to problems and have it graded or judged by a computer. They just tell you how good your answer was. Mock interviews are essential because interviewing is not a skill that you are going to pick up unless you actually do it. You know, there's no class on it. You know all the knowledge. The classes are good, but they don't teach you that. So do mock interviews. Step outside of IDE, anything that has syntax highlighting that fixes your mistakes. I would suggest on a whiteboard because that's what you're going to write on when you're in a real interview. And just try solving a problem. Even if it's a simple problem that you should know how to solve, you think it's too easy, just go try writing it on a whiteboard in a straight line. That's really tough. And that someone else can read it too. Okay, in general, the interview process, you can look at the full timeline at the top. Usually, once you apply, once the recruiter contacts you, they're going to set up 1 to 2 phone interviews. You know, phone, you'll probably type in solutions over Google Docs, which also has no syntax highlighting and everything. And they're going to be watching your every keystroke. So you have to get comfortable with that. Then there's 3 to 4 on-sites. It's basically an all-day interviewing process on-site. So you'll be in a small conference room. Someone will come in and ask you some questions. They'll leave. Someone else will come in and ask you some questions. You'll get a lunch break, and then it'll happen again. 4 to 5 interviews. The hiring committee, really at each stage, even after the phone, it goes to hiring committees, and actually has to go through several hiring committees, which is why it's so tough to get into Google if someone's like, no, don't like this person. We'd rather have a false negative, just because if we let someone in that we shouldn't, then they're there. That's what makes it kind of tough. So I'll add in now, don't get discouraged if you get told no. Keep trying. I believe it's every 6 months you can try again. So for the actual interview, you may get a short introduction. I know people are caught off guard on this. They're about 45 minutes long, but you need that time for the problem. So a lot of engineers will realize that and give you the time. So they may not ask you about what your projects have been or how the day is going for you. They may jump straight into, here's a problem. So be ready for that when it happens. There's a technical assessment interview process. We're looking at your language and syntax. I want to say it doesn't matter, but it does a little bit. We don't want you to write pseudocode. We understand you're going to make mistakes with syntax and language, but do the best you can. Data structures and design. Obviously, it says data structures are important. Are you using the right ones? Are you using a list when you should be using a hash table? Design for new grads is actually not as big of a deal. They understand that you don't have as much real-world experience. So they're probably going to ask you to design anything crazy. I was at other companies, but not at Google. Algorithms and analytical skills. That's the same thing of being able to analyze your algorithm, say, oh, it's running at this complexity. So at the end of every interview, you're going to have a chance to ask questions. I don't think it's a big deal if you don't have any, but it is your chance to ask questions at the end of every interview, every single person. So if you have a few that you want to know, have prepared beforehand, that'll help. Finally, no puzzle questions. I know this used to be a big thing, it probably is at other companies, but where they ask you like why are manhole covers round, or how many golf balls would fit in a school bus, and you just think they're crazy. We basically decided that doesn't give us any real feel for your engineering abilities. Makes sense, right? It took us a while to figure that out. But if you are interested, they are fun problems. I think there's a book called How Would You Move Mount Fuji that's got a bunch of them, if you just want to have fun. During the interview, this is really hard to do. Deep breaths, keep calm. Because you get nervous, and that's fine. It's good to be nervous. That means it matters. Think out loud. That's really tough. We often sit in front of a computer and don't say anything. We sit there and stare at the screen the whole time. The interviewer has no clue what's actually going through your head when you do that, especially when you're on the phone. They can't see you, so they don't know, is this person stuck? Did he die? You know, what happened? So practice doing that when you do your interviews. Actually say everything you're doing out loud, even if you're like, yeah, the sky is red. Oh, no, it's not. You know, you can correct yourself, just keep going. Ask questions if you aren't sure about something, and I'll get to that in a second. Definitely ask questions in the interview, we expect it. The main point here is your thought process is more important than the right answer. Of course, we want you to get to the right answer or to some point in the problem, but it's more important how you get there. We want to know that you can think through something, not just spit out the answer. So I'm often asked, like, is there a perfect solution? Is there something you're looking for? And oftentimes there's not always one. It's mainly a discussion, not necessarily a test where it's multiple choice, you have A, B, C, D, did you pick the right one? So don't be surprised if you get a question that seems kind of complicated. It probably is. We don't necessarily want you to solve it perfectly. When we're interviewing, the bottom line is this person a good software engineer? And would we want to work next to this person? So you can be really smart, but if you won't work with other people, or if you have a bad attitude, something along those lines, you're not going to get in. Let that be a lesson to you. Okay, so now let me go over a couple examples, just so you see what I mean. First, reverse words in a sentence. Now, I've already got a description here for what I actually mean by that. We want to swap positions of the words, not the letters in the words. The first thing that you would do if they said reverse words in a sentence, hopefully, would be to clarify the problem. Because you could reverse the sentence and the words are reversed too, and that could be a way to interpret the problem. So once you actually know what the problem is, find some good test cases. What would be a good test case? One word? 2 words? No words is actually a good test case.
What about the punctuation signs with commas and dots?
Yeah, punctuation. That's a good
What
one.
would you do with it?
Exactly. So that would be a good test case, right? That's along with the next one, disambiguate expected results. So what do you think would happen if you have punctuation, like a comma after a word?
From word to like attachment to the word.
Okay, why do you think that?
Because we don't look at the sentence, we look at the sequence of letters separated by spaces. So we consider commas and dots and all other signs as a piece of word.
Okay,
Like from the
that's perfect. So basically, you picked something and you stuck to it. You said, this is the assumption I'm making, that's what I'm going with, which is the next part. Tell the interviewer what you're assuming. So you got it down, you know what's supposed to happen. Most of the time, we want you to write this in a function. So the next step would be create the function signature, basically what arguments it's going to take. So yeah, this one is pretty easy. Yeah, give us the sentence. Okay, so when you're actually implementing this, just go with your first solution. Whatever comes to mind, the first way you would do it. I'm sure if you sat there 5 more minutes, you'd come up with a trick or something that's better. That's fine. You have limited time, let's start with something. As I mentioned, writing on the whiteboard, write some clean code. Have good variable names, don't use X, Y, and ZZ. weird things that's going to make it hard to follow. Also make it legible. Once you have your solution out there, run your test cases, the things you came up with. See if it actually gives you the results you wanted. Now that you've got a solution, go over the cost and efficiency of that. So this is where I said, use your first solution, it's fine, but acknowledge what problems it has. Say, well, I can't handle this, I forgot that, or the running efficiency is this. And then from there, you can say, well, next time I would do it this way. I could save time by doing this. Here's a shortcut. Oh yeah, I forgot there's a library that does this. And that's fine, that's perfectly acceptable. A lot of times the interviewer will continue to elaborate on the problem, which I'll show you in the next one. So this one is a little more open. Describe a good algorithm for sorting numbers. Who wants to take a shot at this one? No one does. Who's feeling brave? No one's feeling brave. Matt? What do we do?
So, are they any special type of numbers? Are they ages? Are they just any random integer?
Okay, so Matt's asking, should we, let's find out about the numbers we're sorting. Are they integers? Are they floating point numbers? What are we doing? So for now, let's say they're integers.
Do we have a memory constraint?
Memory constraint. Well, what do you mean memory?
So depending on the size of the array or list or whatever structure of the numbers that you're sorting, say you need an equally sized extra data structure to actually sort them, that could be problematic.
So there's two kinds of memory, whether it's actually in memory or whether it's disk space, right? And there are algorithms that use disk space for sorting. But I think you're talking about in memory. Yeah, in memory. Okay, is there constraints in memory? Let's say there's 2 megabytes.
In that case, you want to go with an in-place sorting algorithm like quicksort.
So quicksort, that's a decent one. Do you know the efficiency of quicksort off the top of your head?
And login.
Yeah. Who said that? Who said that? Speak up. Unless it's sorted, why?
The worst case for a quicksort is going to be n squared if they're already sorted.
So quicksort may be a good general solution, but you need to find out, are the numbers sorted already? What is the distribution of these numbers? That's fair. Let's go through a little more. Okay, so a few more things may appear on here. What is the range of the numbers? How are they distributed? You've got the integers, that's good. How much memory? Duplicates, does that matter? So these are all things to find out for this type of question where they're not looking for necessarily a quicksort is the answer, but they want to have a discussion with you. They want to see how you think and what you know. So as Matt suggested, you can go with an all-purpose algorithm. You can say, well, let's do quicksort. And then, of course, the interviewer will probably say, well, they're already in order most of the time. And then you'll have to come with something else. So let's look at a couple more situations here. If we say they're 32-bit integers, unlimited disk space, 2 megabytes memory, we kind of already did that one. Let's see how good you can get, good of an answer you get on the last one. So there's no disk space. These are 7-digit phone numbers, and it needs to be better than in login.
Radix sort.
Who wants to explain radix sort?
Well, you've got the numbers as character arrays, or it could be a character array or some sort of array where you've got each digit. And so then you just sort, taking a look, say just the most significant digit, you're going to sort those, or group them, not sort of, but group the most significant ones. Then you're going to go proceeding down to like each place of significance, but grouping those, and by the end, the groups are all in order.
Okay. Do you know what the efficiency is?
D times n, something like that. Number of digits times n.
Okay. We'll look at Dr. Petty, is that right?
I can't remember.
Okay, so that's a solution. Who can do better? I know it's tough. It's just sorting, guys.
I'm gonna try it. I'm not even computer science. I want to try. What I would do is I would create a paging file using I would create virtual RAM using a USB drive, and then using that virtual disk space, just make a Boolean value that would be true or false based on parameters based on, like, okay, you give me a number here, you give me a number there, and then test that just using a very simple, like, adding and subtracting kind of thing.
He's actually not too far off. You may want to use an Arduino, but...
Yeah, Arduino would work. Yeah.
So, what I like about his answer is that there's a bitmap.
Yeah.
Because here you have 7-digit phone numbers. They're going to be unique. You have the size of them. We still say they're 32-bit integers, and you have 2 megabytes of memory. That all fits in there. So I can create basically a bitmap or an array of Boolean values up to 10 million, and store every single possible phone number in there, or saying it has it by a check mark. So now all I have to do is go through this array using the value as the index and set it to true, for those who can visualize that in your head. So now I can just pass through that Boolean array to see which numbers there are. So basically going through the sort is big O of n, going through one time. Now of course, there's a trade-off that you're using more space, right? But that's what the interviewer gave you. He said there's 2 megabytes of memory. So that's the kind of the conversation they want. They want to see what you can do. And most of the time if they tell you that you have a certain amount of memory or some detail, it's probably for a reason. They're probably wanting you to use that. Make sense? Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to open up the questions in just a second. One thing about applying, go online and do it. I used to know a bunch of people here. It's been a while now. So I do want to say that I can give personal referrals to make sure that a recruiter will look at your application. It does not mean that you'll get an interview, but for me to make a personal referral, I would like to know something about you, and since I don't know anyone here anymore, except for a couple of you guys that won't leave for some reason. If you can, it's safe here. If you would send me an up-to-date version of your resume and 2 letters of recommendation from the professors, then I can do that for you. So if you want to write that down, my business card in the back has just Chasteen at google.com. This one I've already set up to make sure it gets marked as important and never thrown in spam. So if you use that one, it would help. Okay, I did have a sheet set up for questions, but not many people use it, so we're just going to do live questions. Again, if you haven't signed in, do that too. Alex, do you want to pass around the mic? Is that what you want to do?
What I can do is I can just go hand the mic to people.
Okay.
And I think Dr. Gu is also willing to do that as well.
Okay, sounds good.
So, who wants to start? Who has a question?
Y'all have what?
I can gel. Okay, so I have a couple questions, but I'll start with one.
Okay.
Since you did bachelor's and master's here, what class or classes do you think were most beneficial for
Okay.
preparing you for Google?
All of them. I have to be careful, there are professors here. In general, I would say just data structures and algorithms, the ones that teach you how to solve problems. You can specialize in distributed programming or computer architecture, whichever ones you want or find fascinating. It may help if you're looking for a certain position. I know at Google, it doesn't really help that you're an expert at something. We just want good software engineers. So all of the problem solving core classes are the ones that I would say help the most for getting the job and actually what I use day to day. There's an study algorithms class in grad school that's really helpful for that too. I try to give you plenty of time for questions, so ask away.
Thanks, I appreciate it. I was wondering, I come from I'm a huge Linux fan, and I love the way that data structures are done in Unix, because it just uses the human brain, and it allows you to basically write your algorithms without, letting your algorithms write themselves, and so you don't have all these crazy SREs running around with their pulling their hair out, because your algorithms are like bam, bam, bam. So I'm huge on the Unix philosophy, and I was just curious, like how on a day-to-day scale. I mean, obviously with huge servers, you need bigger algorithms, but does the complexity of the algorithm vary on the project? Do you like simple algorithms or more complex, or does it just depend? I know it's a really broad.
That's fine. I would say on a day-to-day basis, it's mostly simple algorithms that you use, but using it in a new way or a way that hasn't been done before, a combination of algorithms. You don't solve break ground in computer science theory every day working at Google.
Right.
Right. Yes, they do get more advanced, but it's more of how you program. Overall, your project may use this huge, long, algorithm overall to handle something, but it's really comprised of a bunch of smaller algorithms all put together. And they do get used in a way sometimes, because we do a lot of processing across data centers, a huge number of machines. It's very easy for me to start up a program that uses 2,000 workers, and that's just normal, that you would have that many machines running.
Okay.
So you do have to adapt them in a bit of a way that may make them seem more complex, but it's mostly simple algorithms.
Okay. Cool. Thanks.
What is the implementation for the project lifecycle at Google? What kind of implementation process do you use, like the waterfall method, agile? Do you have, or is that something you cannot talk about?
It really depends on what we're doing. There's no hard set way for like the life cycle of a project, mostly because projects are either in two states at Google. They're either deprecated or not ready yet. And that's the truth. So a lot of times we come up with something, we use it for a while, I said, oh, now there's a better way. We'll just put more engineers on it, work on the side, come up with a replacement. So it's really kind of interesting. Overall, we don't stick to any one method.
Is there any major things, say in college or the interview process, that you thought about that you would go back and do differently if you had to do it again?
Do you mean like courses or preparation?
Yeah, something along that line. Kind of like take a course that you didn't take, or do this to prepare, or something maybe that you kind of felt you could have done differently.
Well, I got into Google, so I don't feel like I missed too much. Yeah, sure. I would always said that I wish I had more time to take this course or this course, just because I like learning about different areas. But for me, no, overall, I feel like I did well. I kind of recommended you guys the same process that I did, what I've seen help in others and heard from others. But it's up to you. What do you want to do? If you want to just work at a small company, maybe you're in a position where you have to take the first job offer you can. It's really going to be up to you.
My question is very similar. what classes or experiences, now that you've been there for a while, what classes or experiences do you wish you had had?
The one that I wish I would have had more of is more of like software design. And it was available, I just didn't get to that course. But it does come in handy if you kind of already know a bunch of design principles and how to model software. Or, I can't think of what it's called right now. What is it? Singularity, singletons. What are those called? Yeah, design patterns. Design patterns have been nice. That's pretty common speak. What I did though to make up for that is I just read books on my own.
What non-technical, non-software related skills have you found especially important?
Playing board games. Well, let's see. I don't know if there's a really good answer for that as far as really toward work. But I will say that all my coworkers are very diverse and all have their own interests, and we all do a bunch of crazy other stuff. I work with one guy who's a Canadian immigrant who wants to be an actor. He's already been in some movies. He just works at Google in his spare time. So.
I have a quick question.
Okay.
Actually, a couple of them. How long does it take the process of getting an agreement or disagreement for internship?
For an internship.
Right.
Internships are a little different. I didn't do an internship. If you are interested in internship first, it's too late for this summer. I think you need to do it more like in December or no later than January because they fill up fast and they just close it off and stop taking applications. I think I had a slide talking about the interview. There we go. Interns now at the bottom. It's not as big of a process. Really, you have the two interviews there, and then after that, it's more of just where do we put you. So for timeline, I would guess that takes a month and a half.
Is there a way I can get the response? For example, if they say, okay, we cannot take you, can they explain why? I mean, maybe best way answers.
I don't believe they're allowed to say why. I don't know if it's quite legal things or whatever, or they just don't want to get in trouble. But no, I don't think anywhere usually tells you why other than you're not qualified.
I was thinking about like, okay, your thinking is wrong for us. Like, your answer for this sorting algorithm was not that efficient.
No, I know we're not going to tell you. I don't know that anyone else will either.
Okay, and the last one. What board games do you usually play?
Lately, it's been one called Avalon, which is more of a social game where everyone has roles. You're either good or bad, but you don't know who each other is actually. And you have to go on these missions, basically just vote to pass or fail. But you have to pick teams, and you don't know if you're picking a good guy or a bad guy in the team. You have to use a lot of social deduction to pick who you can trust. It's a very good team building game.
I played a similar game. It's called Resistance.
Yes, Avalon is the next version of Resistance.
Ah, okay. Oh, that's right. Oh, because you have Merlin. And, oh, okay. Oh, the Merlin character. During the interview process at Google, when you're asked to do like practical examples, are you allowed to use any programming language? Are there any restrictions there?
So I think normally what they would prefer is that you use C++ or Java, because those are two widely used ones, and that's what we know. I don't know that they're going to tell you no if you use Python or Go or something else, but I know that's what they would prefer. It may be harder for them to match you up with someone for an interview if you say you want to use Go. One thing I will say, I interviewed doing C++. I feel like most people probably use Java from what I've seen. I like C++ because I was able to give more detail, actually explain what was happening as far as like with pointers or the creation or destruction of objects, whereas Java kind of hides some of that. And then especially if you go to Python, and you just use libraries for everything, then you don't get to show off what you know as much.
So if you're, during the interview, if you know a C++ library to do something, or you can code it yourself really quickly, it'd be better just to go ahead and do that yourself then?
It depends on what they're asking. You know, if they're asking you to do something very simple, and they know that it's simple, you know that it's simple, they probably want you to actually write it out yourself. If it's part of a bigger problem and you happen to know this, the standard template library has something you can use, then you should use that.
And one more real quick. During your like day-to-day, I realize Google has like a wide span of projects that they do, but in particular, do you find yourself using like one specific language or set of?
Personally, I use a lot of Java now. So basically, I interviewed in C++ and they hired me for Java. That's part of, we hire good software engineers. It doesn't matter if you're an expert in one thing or another. They said, yeah, we believe that you can pick up another language.
Thank you.
While you're passing around to the next one, I think Alex asked me one for what the majority of people use at Google, what languages. Again, it is probably C++ or Java, but it really varies on what you're doing, whether you're working more on the front end or you're working more low level with machines. You may be doing something in C or C++. We use all kinds of languages, even our own.
I believe it's called a 10% project at Google. Do you have one?
Yes, it is a 20% project. Even better, right? That basically means that you can spend 20% of your time working on something else other than your main project. You can't do it doing whatever you want necessarily. It has to be approved, but most anything can get approved as long as it makes sense. I do sort of have one I was working on, which was had to do with Android.
Okay.
And that's about all I can do.
Also, which office do you work at?
I work at the Irvine location, so I'm in Orange County.
Okay.
So if you don't mind, 3 questions.
Only 2.
First question. I have a colleague who ends up teaching at a college in South Carolina, teaching only Microsoft environment and stuff like that. And it would add to the ammunition when next time I have an argument with them to say that person, students from that college might have a disadvantage, say, at Google. Is that true?
I can't really speak too much on that because I don't know what they're coming out of with that college.
I mean, they know nothing but Visual Studio. They've never touched anything other than Visual Studio.
It would probably hurt a little bit, yes. We do, well, I mean, obviously we don't use Visual Studio, we don't use any Microsoft products. So that part hurts a little bit. We do expect them to have some base knowledge of Linux. Not everyone does, it's not a hard rule, but we definitely want to see that.
Second question is, it's been in the news about the San Francisco area, the strange, disturbing, anti-Google stuff. You know, people essentially blocking the Google buses and anything of that sort in Irvine. And what do the Irvine people think about it, if they think about it at all?
Yeah, well, mostly we don't think about it because it doesn't affect us. I know they're dealing with it up in the Bay Area the best they can. We do sort of have a similar experience, but it's not similar at all. We're getting a new building for the Irvine office, and we're not building it ourselves, we're actually going to lease it out. So someone else is building it, doing all of that. Well, there's some kind of labor dispute union thing, and I don't remember which union, but there were a bunch of protesters outside of the new building protesting with signs like bashing Larry Page and Google because we weren't using whatever the union was for the new building, when really we had no say in it whatsoever. So we do have that.
the episodes yet? How's he compared to Matt Smith?
They're not out yet.
Oh, I thought you might have picked up from Great Britain or something like that.
I did see they just announced that there's going to be a new companion though.
I was curious if you would describe an average workday at Google for us.
Okay. Well, as far as the time frame, it's all up to you. If you want to get there early in the morning, you want to get there late in the day. A lot of engineers like to get there probably after 10. Because he wants to get up super early, and especially with California traffic. So if you take you can say a 9 to 5 work day, and you're spending that much time, 8 hours there. What I do in the morning is check on my emails, mostly. I do code reviews. I try to do those once or twice a day. We have to review each other's code. I go through my bug list to see what I can get done for that day, anything quick, any process requests that I have to do, and probably get pretty much all that done before lunch, and maybe start coding on a feature I have, whatever my goal is, set list of goals for the semester, or the quarter, and I don't usually, for me, I don't take many breaks in the morning. I usually play the board game during lunch when we play it, just because we have a little more time if we do it that way. Go back coding. I'll probably have more meetings in the afternoon. Oh, sometimes I do office hours in the morning to help with other engineers. I don't go play Xbox, but some people do. I take a break at about 3 o'clock and go do some exercising in our gym, just for fun. Oh. It's the off-brand Xbox. Yes. I honestly don't know. I think we probably have an Xbox just because I don't usually go over it. I think they probably have all the gaming systems up. You have to appeal to engineers. Engineers are very grumpy, very picky people. What else I do during my day? I say some meetings, brainstormings with the team, helping anyone else on my team if they need help. We have lots of events that go on throughout the week, whether like the TGIF thing, or if it's a holiday, they may have something special going on. Or we have a committee called Funco, which they just come up with random events. I think this week they're doing a shuffleboard tournament. And I think there's always a magic tournament going on.
Sorry. You talked about it in your slides, that you guys have a ton of products and services. This kind of first part real quick, how are those teams, I guess, organized? Is there like a team for each one of those, or is there just a couple big teams?
It depends on the size and scope of the team, or the project. Something like Chrome is not just 5 people in a box working. There's multiple teams working on different parts of Chrome. So it really depends. Was there one you had in mind? I probably don't know too much, but.
Well, I guess I was just kind of leading up to, I guess, depending on the team structure, how do you communicate, or do you communicate with each other?
We do directly sometimes for the small things where I want to know something about, like, for example, I work on an internal project on the back end. So I'm on a back end team, and then there's a front end team for it. So if I need to know, well, what's the front end doing for something, I can just ask them directly. In my case, they work right next to me. But if there's any bigger conversations that need to happen, it usually goes through our product managers to make sure that everyone's on the same page and doing, like I'm preparing my part of the feature that's needed so the front end can do theirs without me having to talk to each one individually. Thank you.
Am I next? So, not really to backtrack, but I'm going to backtrack. You talked about the more popular programming languages.
what's one of the more obscure or lesser known languages that either you've used or you've seen someone else use on a feature or project that you've worked on?
Nothing really obscure that's like lolcat or anything. We have our own languages for a lot of things. I'm trying to think the best way to describe it. A lot of our storage stuff is done using our own languages, and for running and managing our servers, we have our own language. And those can get pretty crazy sometimes, to the point where no one wants to work in them. But you have to. But no, I haven't seen anything super crazy. I'm sure there is at least one line of lolcat code though. There probably is.
We got one back here first.
So what does Google look at when they're looking through the job applications, looking through resumes? What are they looking for that makes them decide, let's call this person and set up an interview?
Basically, they want to see that you have a good background in computer science or software engineering, whatever your degree is in. They want to see that you've taken some effort to really immerse yourself in it and I guess like take on projects. That's why I mentioned if you have on there that you've gone to programming contests, done conferences, you've gotten scholarships. Those are things that maybe the average student wouldn't do. They would just go to class, get the degree. So if you can stand out by having some of those things, then you're in a better position, which is why I was saying it's great for underclassmen that can start working on it now. It'll really help them.
Okay, that's me. Given that there are so many teams at Google, and you only put up that there are 3 jobs to apply for, how did you end up on your team versus Glass or Google or Chrome or Google X or?
That's a very good question. So, like I said before, they hire good software engineers, and that's all they care about hiring for. So when you go apply at Microsoft, you're going to have to apply for something specific. Like you want to work on their cloud services, which is fine. That's what most companies do. So what happens at Google is you actually get hired to work on some project, and you don't know what. So you have to take a little bit of risk there, but it's okay, because what's going to happen is you're going to get a chance to interview some product managers for different products in whatever office that you pick, and pick from there which team sounds that you're more interested in. And that team will be your starter project. In that first year and a half, you're basically learning everything about Google, the languages we use, how things are done, and kind of getting you on your feet. And then after that, you can move to any team you want, any office you want. Yeah.
I had a question. You mentioned goals earlier. How are you evaluated?
Carefully. So we, the team lead and the product manager meet up with the tech leads for this, like back end, front end, different parts of the project, and they say, okay, we've got so many engineers, we can handle so much. We expect this feature to take so much of an engineer's time, like 0.3 of their time for the entire quarter. This person has some space, some time left, he can work on it, and he also has experience in that area, different things. So they carefully pick out like what you can get, and then they give you more. And then that's okay, because when we're graded at the end, even as a company, everything on a whole, because we take these moonshots and wanting to get way more done than what would seem possible anywhere else, we're not graded, we're not expected to get anywhere close to 100% done. So as far as how we're graded, did you really put forth the effort and try? You're not going to get in trouble for not meeting your goals unless the manager says he's not trying. He played Xbox all day instead of only 8 hours of the day.
So I've actually got a question over here. I say this because a few of the GTAs are graduating, in fact, more than half of them. How valuable is grad school?
I would say it's definitely worth it, at least from my point of view. It's not that you can't get a job somewhere without it, but I think it definitely helps. The way that I looked at it was I got the tools to do everything that I needed, like the foundation in undergrad, and then in graduate school, I really had to learn how to go out and do everything else on my own. So it's more of where in undergrad they may set you up with a project saying, here's what it should do, ask me questions, everything. By the time you're in grad school getting projects, when you leave, someone should be able to just say, I need something that does this, and you're able to go figure it out and do it. And I think that's invaluable for the workforce. You know, otherwise I would be bugging the person next to me all day, like, hey, how do you do this? Hey, how do you do that?
A follow-up to his question, thesis or no thesis?
That's a tough one. I don't know, it may depend on what you want to do. I did a thesis, and I thought it was very helpful to do. I feel like I maybe got more out of that than if I just re-answered old questions. But that's going to be up to you. I can't make that decision for you.
You mentioned earlier some outside reading on design principles and things. Do you have any other books you could recommend?
I don't remember exactly which one I looked at, but it was probably something like Design Patterns for Idiots. So, now if you go to like Amazon and look up, or somewhere like what's a good design pattern book, you can usually find one that's more popular over the others. And any of the top ones are probably going to have the basic stuff you need to know.
This question that I have is about I'm just going to use a project as an example so that it would fit within a scope. Chrome, and the open source / Google community as a whole. As far as end users and how you give support to end users, how does that all fit into like a typical app ecosystem? Like I know we basically kicked Apple, you know, because we had the open source initiative coding like crazy and come up with all these extra innovations, but how do you communicate with like Chromium, who does a lot of stuff on the front end? You come in with the back end and you clean things up, and then how does that translate into, let's say, like when Chrome first came about, one of the things that I know, especially I wanted to, and a lot of people wanted, was we wanted the ability to be able to print, having like your printer come up and be recognized by Chrome, so that you could go in and say, okay, I want to print the page without the advertisements, or the page without the header at the top. There was no way to do that until somebody invented a piece of JavaScript code for only a couple of printers. So how important is, I guess the question, how important is the community as a whole from when you write a feature, how important is the community feedback from an open source perspective?
Well, it's definitely very valuable, and usually, especially for open source things, we will have forums and help groups set up for those types of discussions, and they can actually help us, since it's open source, on their own. They can submit fixes and whatnot. And for anything that's closed source, or just any other product, we usually have Google feedback worked into it, where at some point on the page you can submit feedback about the product, including a screenshot or whatever you want, ideas to make suggestions. Does that kind of answer?
Yeah, that helps. I've always been really curious because you guys have really exploded in the last 5 years as far as the different technologies that you're into, and I don't know how you keep it all straight. As far as
well, I don't.
I mean, I know you don't, but I'm saying, like, you guys have done what mainstream Linux distributions have tried to do for 20 years, and when you finally got Android on the market, I was like, holy crap, we can actually bring Linux to end users. Holy crap. And so I was just impressed with that. I mean, there's still obviously, going to be, bugs here and there, but just the way that you've been able to put an open source ecosystem model for profit that's actually worked and stuck, and I'm just really curious. Like I was talking to you about the Chromebook Pixel, for example, and there's, are you going to eventually come out with like an OS that competes with Microsoft? Like obviously you can't answer that, but I mean, I'm just saying what you guys have been able to do just and taking the community and making us feel important has been good. And so I just wanted to see if there was, a more structured feedback loop than that, and appreciate that.
Yeah, that is a really hard problem. I mean, it's hard to set up one place that everyone can go to do something because everyone's different and everyone wants different things. There's always going to be somebody that's not happy. But we try the best we can.
Yeah, thanks.
So you said several times about them hiring software engineers, but they also do a lot of graphics and videos and stuff like that. I'm wondering, does Google pull from its software engineers do they have graphics specialists within those, or do they hire outside in a different area?
So I know there are more jobs listed on the site. If you go to google.com/jobs, you can find more details about those other things, whether it's designing or mechanical engineering. Those we're starting to expand into, but obviously it's nowhere near the size as far as what we hire for the software engineers.
This is actually, so you guys, like on the homepage, just with the search bar and the logo, is there like an art guy or a guy whose job is every once in a while make an awesome thing for the logo?
It's one guy, and we keep him in the basement. No, there's an entire team for that, and they actually do work with engineers on what we should do. I think there was a video clip put out about it recently, saying that the engineers want to do all this crazy stuff, and the people who do the Google Doodles are like, no, we can't. We only have a day to do this, we can't do that. But yeah, there's a whole team that works on that.
My question is, do they hire all year long, or do they have some specific windows to hire?
They are always hiring.
Always hiring, like at the same rate?
It's probably a little slower at given times. Not necessarily that we aren't willing to hire as many, but maybe that we're going to hit more peaks around graduation or at different times. It may slow down during the winter.
Maybe my question is, they always are in need of engineers?
Yes.
I believe this is going to be an obvious one, but I feel like I should ask anyways. It was, as far as stagnation goes, there's always going to be room for improvement or another position that you can aspire for. I know you said after a year and a half, you get to pick your own project, but as far as like maybe moving up the chain, or you said the information technology, I believe, was another one that they often hire from inside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so what, in Google, you have job positions, but that's separate from the level you are at. So you can actually go kind of two different ladders. If you want to stay as a software engineer, you don't want to go up into doing product management, you can stay as a software engineer the whole time, but still be promoted and keep that title. Now, but then for the others who do want to go into management, they can do that too.
Does number of attempts matter?
What's that?
Does number of attempts to get a job matter?
No, I mean, you can apply, be turned down, apply, be turned down, apply, be turned down, apply, get it, and it doesn't matter that you didn't get in before. I know several people that went through that actually.
Helix or dome fossil?
It's only a matter of time.
I don't think we have time to get into that one.
There we go.
Does anyone have any more questions?
I'm gonna be around a little bit. I'll probably head back to the department. If you have any more personal questions you want to ask me, I can maybe answer them more specific to your case.
Kevin, ETA on Nashville's Google Fiber?
You're gonna have to ask Nashville on that one. We gave them the invitation. I'm sure they are very happy about it, but we have to work with them.
One last question. I noticed Nashville announced the tech hub. You heard me talk about possible expansion into a headquarters in Nashville, or is that just hearsay?
I have not heard anything along those lines. I did hear about the tech hub. I'm not entirely sure what they want to do with that either, but I have not heard anything about a full office yet.
Anyone else?
Real quick. So a lot of people talk about, if you're going to get a software engineer job and you go West Coast, California, Washington area, I guess. Are there kind of I guess I'm trying to ask, are you going to see the same opportunities there, elsewhere? Like, obviously Nashville is a big place for healthcare and insurance and stuff like that, but are you going to see the same kind of stuff in other places? Or is that?
There are a lot of opportunities on the West Coast. That's where a lot of startups are. Things are building and growing. If you want to know about through Google, as I said, there's over 70 different offices. So if you're interested in being somewhere else, you can probably find it. And I'm sure other companies may not have as many offices, may have more, as far as going to different places. I think probably startups is the biggest thing though that's driving it over there. Other than that, it's going to be well-established areas like Nashville probably.
Also, so you said also that you get put on a startup team. Is location part of where they put you, or can you say I would like to be, in California?
You get a pick of they'll say, oh, we have positions opening in these offices right now. What sounds good to you? And you can pick the top 3 and get ranking and preference. That way you do have a say in it.
Cool. Thank you.
One more thing, when you're doing your resumes, never put that you are an expert about something. We will prove you wrong.
What salary do you start at? Is that?
So that's a huge question. It really depends on what level you're coming in at and what office you're going to. They do have some cookie cutter, type things like, oh, you're coming in with your master's, you kind of fit within this area. And then they'll look at, oh, you're going to be at this office, and they look at, what they mostly do is look at surrounding companies to stay competitive in that area. So if there was an office here and you had to pick between here and California, obviously there's going to be a difference in salary because of the cost of living and competitors that are not here.
Anyone else? Okay, let's give it up to Micah.